After this week's episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta, everyone wants to know, what is the real deal with Todd and Kandi's financial relationship? Well, I talked to some industry insiders and they filled me in on some important details that I am going to share with you guys right after this. What's up, kinfolk, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, do me a favor and subscribe. And if you already are subscribed, do me a favor and get notified so you'll know whenever I upload new videos to the channel. Alright, kinfolk, come on into the house. We have a lot to talk about, and it centers around this week's episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta, when we got an up-close look at Todd and Kandi's financial relationship. I talked to some industry insiders who have some first-hand knowledge of how Kandi and Todd both see their finances, and I'm going to share with you what they told me. After last week's episode, several industry insiders weighed in on the true nature of Kandi and Todd's financial relationship. Many fans were left wondering if Kandi respected Todd's financial opinions when it came to their joint finances. The first industry insider said, Todd has always been a hustler. He's a New Yorker and will always see things from a New York perspective. However, it's his lack of understanding of how family and finances work in the South. This has been a big learning curve for him, and sometimes the secondary source of his problems with Kandi. Kandi is a provider in a nurturing sense, said the source. It's just her nature to give. So, the question is, does Todd respect Kandi's giving spirit, or does he resent it? Well, industry source number 2 says that allegedly Kandi's financial giving nature is a double-edged sword for Todd. On one hand, he loves how Kandi uses her money to freely invest in joint business ventures and in Todd's personal business endeavors. However, the issue comes to drama when allegedly Todd feels Kandi uses her money to assert control. Many sources say that this simply isn't true, but they do acknowledge that Kandi does use her vast knowledge of a particular industry to assert control over certain projects in that industry that Todd may not have a lot of knowledge in. Another industry insider says Kandi and Todd's financial relationship becomes even more tense when it comes to how they choose to raise their family. Look, said the source, Todd is just going to have to understand that Kandi and her kids are not going to go without. Yes, there may be some stipulations on how much she's willing to spend, but when it comes to their kids, Kandi is determined to provide them with the best life possible, said the insider. The source also says that allegedly there has been several intense conversations regarding how much Kandi does for Kayla. The source continued, Kandi sees Kayla as her own daughter. She tries to provide Kayla with as much as she does with Riley, but also tries to respect Todd's financial boundaries with Kayla. However, this financial thinking on Todd's behalf has only managed to cause friction on his relationship with Kayla. Now, kinfolk, when I got this information, I said a lot of it is beginning to make sense. And after watching this week's episode, I was able to connect the dots on where Kandi and Todd's issue lie. And here it is. First, you have two different types of people who were raised in two different types of environments. And for me, that is the foundation of their issues when it comes to matters of money. You have Todd, who was raised in New York, the hustle, the bustle, the grind, get it how you live, make it do what it do. You're in the jungle, the concrete jungle. Then you have Kandi, a southern girl who was raised more so on the ideology of family, love, and community. And if you're raised in the South, and I was born and raised in the South as well, you know that when it comes to family, nothing else is as important. So when you're in the South, there's this understanding that you take care of your family as well as your community around you. It's something that was instilled in us from the time of the Civil Rights Movement, when blacks had to coalesce around each other to provide a way of life and to provide safety and security, and sometimes even the basic necessities of life for one another. And so that type of ideology, of course, spewed into our family and our family units. And that's pretty much how Kandi sees things. That's why she's so passionate about empowering black women and black men and bringing more black people to the table that she is setting up in this entertainment industry. So one, that for me pretty much told me why they have this different perspective on money. Number two, this part of this information I said also makes a lot of sense. And it's this. When it comes to Todd, Todd is very peculiar. And I think it's because he's a Leo. On one hand, Leos, they thrive, from my experience, on having recognition and being able to say, hey, I did this, and you recognizing what they did as a person, as a worker, as a leader, as an individual, or as a spouse. They thrive on that acknowledgement. And so for Todd, on one hand, he enjoys the acknowledgement that Kandi gives him and saying, hey, Todd got his own thing going. Todd is a producer. Todd is this. Todd is that. And Todd is able to sit back and revel in that and enjoy that. And he actually respects Kandi for her understanding that he does bring something to the table. However, Leos are very competitive in my experience. So when you're married to a person who is just as motivated, just as driven as you are, there can come a time where you feel like, hey, that person might be outpacing me. That person might be, winning more than me. Now, I know you're thinking, they're married. He shouldn't allegedly think that way, right? And of course, it's all speculation. And he may not actually think that way. However, from what I've seen on this episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta and on OLG, I kind of feel like Todd does slightly think this way. However, it's not in a very malicious or dark way. It's really pretty much in a competitive way, which I think adds a big dynamic to their relationship that helps them thrive. And on the third end of that, I think it works for them because Kandi understands that. Kandi is a business person, but also Kandi is really good at reading people. She has a very forgiving nature because I think it comes from her ability to really read people. And as a unit, you can tell that Kandi understands when Todd needs to be supported and loved on and being able to lead. And you can also see that she knows when to come in and say, hey, that's not it. That's not right. We should do it like this. And for the most part, with that balance, I think Todd respects that, and I think that's how they make it work. Now, for the third thing my industry insider told me. When it comes to Kandi and Todd and their family, I just always think when it comes to like money and what person does what for their child or what they do for their children together, it just always comes off as performative. I don't think there is really no tension between Kandi and Todd when it comes to what they provide for their family. And I say their family, Kayla included, Riley included, and Blaze, and all the kids together. And I don't really think there's any really tension there. I think it's all played up for the cameras. I think there is a legit understanding, and I want to say it's a legit understanding thanks to Mama Joyce, that Kandi and Riley and her kids, including Kayla, are going to be set for life. They probably have $1 million trust funds each, $1 million plus trust funds each. I think the conversation and the tension more so comes into Todd having control in an event something happens to Kandi, God forbid. And I think that is more so Todd feeling like they don't trust him to lead and they don't trust him to be able to manage money. Why? That is a hit to his ego. And I think that's where the tension comes in at. But I think at the end of the day, you know, Todd understands that he wants his kids and him and Kandi's kids to be fine and set financially. And I think that's one thing that he likes and loves about Kandi, that she is not only going to look out for her family, but she's going to look out for her kids and make sure everyone's straight. And also, I think the point of contingency too is how much Kandi does for Kayla now and how much Kandi does for the kids right now. And this is why. Going back to what the industry source said, Todd is a New Yorker. He's a hustler. He's always had this hustler mindset. And I think whenever they do have a little spats about money, I think it's more so about how much Kandi is doing for the kids right now. And Todd not necessarily wanting them to have all these things handed to him because he feels like it's going to take away that hustle and that grind out of him. And I can understand that because that hustle and grind is what made him who he is today. So now I can understand a little bit why Todd may have those little quarrels with Kandi about how much she does for the kids in this moment. However, he does have to realize that Kayla and Riley are both hustlers, but Kayla is much more of an unconventional hustler and Riley is much more of a conventional hustler. And I think that once Todd realizes that, I think he'll be able to interpret it what Kandi means by when she says she doesn't think that the kids should have to go without. She thinks that the kids should have the best of this life so they can aspire to do the same thing for their kids. But kinfolk, I want to know what you think. Do you think that this information, and you know it's all speculation at this point, do you think that this information provides a very clear interpretation of how Kandi and Todd see their finances? Or do you think at the end of the day, Todd is just simply overreacting and needs to let Kandi just handle all of that business when it comes to making sure the kids are straight? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Alright, kinfolk, as always, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys over on the next one. Peace.